Welcome to today's breakdown. We're diving into one of the most important institutions in the European Union, the European Council. Now, you might have heard of the European Council, but what does it actually do and how does it fit into the complex machinery of the EU? Well, you're in the right place to find out. At its core, the European Council is the highest political body of the EU. It's where the heads of state or government of the 27 EU member states come together to set the EU's overall direction and priorities. Think of it as the EU's ultimate decision-making body when it comes to policy and long-term goals. But unlike the European Parliament, which represents the citizens of the EU, or the European Commission, which proposes new legislation, the European Council isn't directly involved in the day-to-day work of making laws. Instead, it plays a crucial role in shaping the EU's strategic agenda. The European Council is composed of the heads of state or government of each EU member state. So, we're talking about the likes of Germany's Chancellor, France's President, or the Prime Minister of Italy, but it also includes the President of the European Commission and the President of the European Council, a position that leads the meetings and helps coordinate discussions. Right now, that position is held by Charles Michel, who oversees the Council's work and represents the EU to the outside world. But remember, the European Council is not a legislative body. Its main role is to set the strategic direction for the EU, especially on matters like foreign policy, economic governance, and institutional reforms. When crises arise, whether it's the Brexit negotiations, the refugee crisis, or economic instability, the European Council is the place where decisions are made at the highest level. It's not about everyday legislation. It's about decisions that can change the course of the EU. Unlike some other EU institutions, decisions in the European Council are generally made by consensus, meaning all 27 member states need to agree. In some cases, though, a unanimous vote is required, particularly for more sensitive issues like foreign policy or treaty amendments. These meetings are held regularly, typically 4 times a year, but special meetings can be called whenever necessary. They are not public, which means the discussions are behind closed doors. But the outcomes often have significant implications for the EU as a whole. So, while the European Council doesn't directly make the laws that govern the EU, its decisions shape the EU's future. Whether it's setting economic goals, dealing with international relations, or responding to crises, the European Council steers the ship, setting the course for Europe's next steps. That's your quick rundown of the European Council, an institution that may not always be in the spotlight, but whose influence extends to almost every aspect of life in Europe. If you want more insights on EU institutions and how they work together, make sure to subscribe and stay tuned.